Hello, Unbreaking here, and I'll be ranking every single LEGO Technic set of 2023 from the worst to the best. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. First up are the LEGO Technic Monster Jam Dragon as well as the Mud Dalmatian sets, which I have combined together because they are identical cars just with a different top. The Dragon uses the newer style half pins which are not frictionless, so unlike the Max D of 2021, as Serial described, the Dragon will not look like an electrocuted hedgehog. Unfortunately, both sets do have that front bumper, which is not present on the real-life versions of these cars. Other pullback sets, like the new Neon McLaren Extreme E-Team, does not have that bumper, so I'm glad that the bumper is not present on the new models. The LEGO Monster Jam Mud Dalmatian is my preferred set out of the two because I absolutely love dogs. I think that LEGO Technic should release some more robotic animals with Control Plus because that would be absolutely incredible. This is truly the most fascinating theme ever, and in order to understand its history, all of its complex mechanisms, and which sets are the best, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. No pressure though, no pressure. Here we have the LEGO Technic forklift with pallet set number 30655, which came with 78 pieces inside of a poly bag, and it retailed for only $5. Despite being so small, it had an incredible function where you could turn the top knob and lift up the fork. This mechanism was accomplished with a worm gear and an 8-tooth gear, as well as a combination of lift arms. Despite being so simple, the mechanism works very well, and it's very impressive how effective it is despite being absolutely tiny. This is easily the most complex Technic poly bag we have gotten so far. I personally enjoyed playing with the set way more than I did with the pullback sets. I would argue that it is the most underappreciated set of 2023, and I highly recommend this one if you're looking to get started with LEGO Technic at a very cheap price. Next up is the LEGO Technic Lamborghini Huracan Tecnica, which is overall a pretty good set. It came with a very interesting steering mechanism that did not use any gear racks, as well as a V10 engine at the back. Only one of the rear wheels is connected to the engine, which allows the car to turn while all four wheels maintain traction, although I do wish it came with a differential, much like the Chevrolet Corvette. I also greatly appreciate that you can actually see the engine, because engines get covered up by various Technic panels way too often. And look at that, this car even contains a live bug. However, it could definitely use some improvement. Just like the supercar of 2020, this one also suffered from mismatched lime colors. I really hope that the next set that uses lime colors does not have this problem. The NASCAR Next Gen Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 is very similar to the Lamborghini, but it is way better in several key areas. Even though it does not have openable doors, it actually contains a differential. In my opinion, differentials should be a standard feature in all Technic cars. This differential equation is connected to the V8 engine, which you can see by opening the front hood. Unfortunately, the pistons inside barely move since the engine just uses some half pins. On the other hand, the internal mechanisms in this car are truly breathtaking. I love how the 20-tooth gear with clutch makes it possible for both the steering and the engine power to pass through a tight space. Speaking of steering, the hand of God knob is located at the back. You have to turn it quite a lot in order to fully turn the wheels. This car is the perfect successor to the Chevrolet Corvette of 2019, and I personally believe that all Technic cars within this price range should focus on mechanisms like the Chevrolets rather than aesthetics like the Lamborghini Huracan. I also love that these rear mudguards are actually printed pieces. It makes the car truly legendary. Here we have the LEGO Technic The Batman Batcycle, which looks absolutely phenomenal. I love how this set uses 0 stickers, and it is easily one of the best motorcycles ever made. I love how you can launch it with your hand and it will maintain its balance due to the larger, thicker tire at the back. The engine looks fascinating as well. You can easily access the top half, but the other half requires a little extra effort. Personally, I would leave the engine completely exposed and not worry about the aesthetics at all. The engine is an absolute beauty to look at. The suspension is pretty amazing too, especially since we got those Ducati shock absorbers in black. This is the perfect example of authenticity, functionality, and challenging building. It has some great building techniques, a phenomenal engine, and it looks great. If you knew nothing about Batman, this set could easily pass as just a regular old motorcycle due to the lack of stickers, which I greatly appreciate. The LEGO Technic 2022 Ford GT, which was released in 2023 despite its name, is a wonderful example of how cars of this scale should be like. The best function in this car is the clear V6 engine. I think that every single Technic set should use clear engine pieces where they would normally use the gray ones, because they're so fascinating to look at. Furthermore, inside the car you will find a lever which deploys the rear spoiler. I love that this mechanism was implemented in a fairly compacted car. This piece, which is barely visible, is actually glow in the dark, Technic. At first, I was curious why a glow-in-the-dark piece was implemented in such a useless manner, but perhaps it was foreshadowing the Peugeot, which was not yet released at the time. We also get fully independent suspension on this car, and the front wheels travel slightly less than the rear ones. Also, by opening the front hood, you'll be able to see the steering mechanism. I always appreciate it whenever we can actually look at the Technic mechanisms, because that's what Technic is all about. This car is much smaller than the Ferrari 488 GTE or the Porsche RSR, but I actually think that's a good thing, because it allowed the Ford to be much cheaper while offering substantially more functionality. Next up is the LEGO Technic, as I like to call it, Peugeot 9x8 24 hours Le Mans hybrid hypercar, set number 4156. I was truly blown away by the suspension. Despite using a single shock absorber for each pair of wheels, the suspension is fully independent. Prior to building this set, I have never seen such a mechanism used in LEGO Technic. Both pair of wheels use the exact same mechanism, but in practice, the rear pair has a lot more travel. The car boasts a gorgeous V6 engine connected to the rear differential with 8-tooth gears. This means that there is no transmission in this set. The only thing resembling a 7-speed gearbox is just a sticker on the underside of the car. I wish it came with a real gearbox. Even if it was just a 2-speed, it still would have been better than the sticker. Interestingly, the front pair of wheels also uses a differential. It is the newer style that was first introduced in the Top Gear rally car. The differential connects to what represents an electric motor. This is not a real motor, but it's built like that because the real car uses an electric motor for the front pair. The car has a hand of God knob as well as a steering yoke. It's always awesome whenever we get both a functional steering wheel as well as the hand of God knob. On top of that, the headlights can actually glow in the dark, which was unexpected, but an absolutely legendary feature of the car. But the 2015 24 Hours race car has a gearbox with upgradability using the Power Functions accessory box. I really wish that the Peugeot also had a gearbox. Here we have the LEGO Technic NASA Mars Rover Perseverance 4158. This is an excellent representation of space exploration and perhaps an early tease into what the 2024 Technic sets would be like. Look at how gorgeous the suspension system is. Theoretically, it should work very well, and it probably would if it was driven by the wheels. However, because you're pushing it on the main body portion, the central wheels end up struggling and they require human assistance. Otherwise, the rear set of wheels goes back, and it's just not a very enjoyable experience when playing in rough terrain. However, the wheels can turn to make the Rover spin a full 360 degrees, which is absolutely amazing. The set also has two knobs which control the drill. The one on the right moves the drill side to side, while the one on the left lowers the drill. It is not a fully knob-operated experience. You still have to manually unfold it and then adjust the drill on the ball socket joint. I love the exposed mechanisms here because moving gears are absolutely incredible. I do wish that instead of two control knobs, we had a single one with a distribution gearbox. I plan to modify this set to have a gearbox, much like how I modified the heavy-duty Excavator to have a gearbox. To me, the best part about this set is easily the augmented reality app. You can take rock samples, store them, and do all kinds of wonderful stuff. And maybe we could even get AR integration using the Vision Pro. What color is your Bugatti? That's right, you can choose between either the blue Bugatti Bolide or the yellow one. They're both identical with the exception of their color schemes, as well as the yellow one having the CSR sticker while the blue one does not have it. They both feature the legendary W16 engine, which looks so gorgeous and sounds even better. The engine is connected by a solid axle to the rear wheels, and I wish that it used a differential or at least was connected to just one of the wheels instead of both. Whenever a car turns, the outer wheels have to rotate more than the inner wheels. This is why real cars use differentials instead of solid axles. Because the Bugattis are manual models, the solid axle is not a major issue. However, if this was a remotely controlled car, I would try to incorporate a differential to avoid the extra stress. I love that we are able to select from two different color options for the Bugatti Bolide, and in 2024 we got the Lamborghini Huracan in the orange color, so I'm glad that some LEGO Technic sets have multiple color options. The LEGO Technic Firefighter aircraft is one of my favorite airplanes of Technic. By simply pushing back the lever below the airplane, you can activate the propellers. This function is so satisfying, and it's the perfect stress reliever. This is a level of satisfaction that simply cannot be explained with words. It reminds me a lot of a 2015 LEGO Chima helicopter set. The small knob on either side of the airplane raises and lowers the landing gear. Interestingly, the rear wheels retract right below the engine. I have never seen such a mechanism prior to building this airplane. It is kind of similar similar to how the landing gear works on a Q400 airplane, and I would make the argument that the entire airplane resembles a Q400. I also love the opening water bay. You can fly up to something, open the bay, and then fly away. It's such a fun play feature. The airplane also features some control surfaces. The ailerons are not connected like on a typical airplane, and they are independent here. There is also an elevator, but no rudder unfortunately. What surprised me is just how thin the fuselage is. It is only 7 studs wide, which is 2.2 inches or 5.6 centimeters. There is a usable width of only 5 studs inside the fuselage, and yet despite that, there were several amazing mechanisms packed in. Even though this is a fairly simple function, it is incredibly effective, and I believe that more Technic sets should feature something similar to the lever that activates the propellers. Next up is the LEGO Technic 948 L2 skitter, which is a wonderful pneumatic set. We can bring the claw forward, bend the arm in half, and open or close the claw. The set is actually a great parts donor. For just $200, you get 2 of those heavy-duty differentials with gears, 5 pneumatic cylinders, a pump, 3 pneumatic switches, 2 linear actuators, a good amount of gears, those awesome Class Zeron tires, several frames, and so much more. Furthermore, this set even comes with a 6-cylinder inline engine, which uses the newer 3-stud frictionless pins, as well as the 1x1 circular spacers. The real-life counterpart on which the set is based on uses a continuously variable transmission. I wish that we got a transmission like that in this set, or at least just a regular gearbox. I personally love the articulated steering. It is built very well by using 2 large turntables. This is a massive upgrade over the single, tiny turntable that was used in the 6x6 Volvo articulated hauler. So unlike the hauler, you don't have to carry the skitter like a baby. The entire set reminds me a lot of the L350F wheel loader we got in 2014, and I personally think that we should get another wheel loader like that. Here we have the Audi RS Q e-tron. I love that this set introduced those brand new wheel hubs, which are 1x1 and do not have the gear reduction ratio. Surprisingly, this is actually a pretty great off-roader. It can easily go over some small rocks and rough terrain. It has fully independent suspension on all 4 wheels, and the rear pair of wheels gets reduced travel as opposed to the front ones. The suspension here is incredibly bouncy and quite soft. Normally, suspension on wheels is much more stiff. In this set, the wheels actually come up when off-roading, and it looks pretty cool. Although I do wish that the ground clearance was higher, because the model does end up getting stuck pretty often. The Control Plus hub also sits pretty low, so I do not recommend you taking it off-roading in rivers like I did. Something very fun you can do is enter rally mode. You need an open area to play this game. Essentially, you have to drive this car in a certain direction before the timer, or rather, your energy runs out. It's a great experience. This is easily the single greatest Control Plus car, only after the Mercedes-Benz Z-Tro's trial truck. Anytime I motorize a Technic set, I typically like to use the 1 Control Plus hub as well as 3 motors, 1 for steering and 2 for driving. This set is a great parts pack for an easy motorization mod of any Technic set. This is easily the single greatest LEGO Technic motorcycle ever made. Not only does it look like an absolute beast, but it has legendary mechanisms, and maybe they're even better than what was in the 8043 motorized Excavator. The motorcycle received 2 brand new orange forks, which are used for shifting the driving rings. This was a truly brand new, revolutionary mechanism that was never seen before in LEGO Technic. By using the levers on the side, you can change the speeds. Amazingly, the gearbox never jams, and it works absolutely perfectly. The real-life version of this motorcycle actually has a 6-speed transmission, so I wish that we got a 4th speed, since it would have been very easy to implement without needing to add any additional driving rings. Watching the rear wheel move and knowing what sorts of crazy mechanisms are on the inside is truly an indescribable, incredible feeling. In fact, I am more fascinated by the mechanisms of the Yamaha motorcycle than the 8043 motorized Excavator. The suspension is fantastic too, and it allows you to easily play with this motorcycle in off-road terrain. I like how you don't have to use the steering bars to turn the wheel. Rather, you can just turn the entire body of this motorcycle and the wheel will turn. On top of having incredible mechanisms on the inside, it looks spectacular. The front looks absolutely incredible, and I love the use of these panels as well as the creative building technique for the headlights. This is easily my favorite set of the past decade, even beating the 6x6 Volvo articulated hauler, the Mercedes-Benz Z-Tro's trial truck, or even the Airbus H175 rescue helicopter. This is a set that will truly break your mind, and that is the very essence of LEGO Technic. These sets should break your mind due to their advanced mechanisms. Before I reveal the number 1 pick, I'd like to give an honorable mention to the $13 snow groomer as well as the dump truck. They both provide good value for such a low price, and they're some of the only sets with B models, so once you're done playing with them, you can easily rebuild them into other models. That is amazing. The LEGO Technic Liber Crawler Crane LR13000 set number 42146 is easily the single greatest set of 2023. It is absolutely massive, and when the crane is fully upright, it stands a full meter tall. I personally love the various rope connections and the moving blocks. Instead of using a combination of gears or linear actuator, the entire top superstructure is powered by nothing more than some motors rotating spools with ropes. Normally, the lack of a gearbox is a bad thing in a set, but the advanced pulleys certainly make up for that. It is truly incredible, and the top Control Plus hub even leans depending on the weight that's on the hook. It provides a little weight measuring function, and I always love whenever sets take advantage of the internal gyroscope of the Control Plus hubs. A common complaint of this set is the proportions. Specifically, the boom is considered to be too short. While that is true, you have to keep in mind that even at this size, it is very difficult to transport. If you don't take it apart, it is a pain to put it in your car. If you buy some extra frames, you can easily expand the boom to make it taller. This set is truly unique because it uses a ton of frames, both for the chassis as well as the superstructure. It did not feel like a Technic set, but rather something from an entirely new theme, but in a good way. Personally, I don't think that the proportions are a real problem at all. However, it still has its flaws. For example, there are some supporting wide balls below the counterweights. I don't think that they are necessary, and you can easily modify the crane to remove these supports. However, if you add much heavier counterweights at the back, you need those supports, and the crane will be able to lift much heavier objects. Just make sure not to carry it by its chassis, otherwise this is what will happen to you. I personally had so much fun playing with the set, and words cannot describe just how good the experience was. This is easily one of the best fully remotely controlled sets ever. If you would like to learn more about this crane or about the 2022 Technic sets, then click on one of these videos right over here. This is your Unbrick Me here, and I'll see you in the next one.